At dawn, I watch our biggest client wait beside an empty loading bay. Celia Morse stands under the Bellwether Hotel's dock light in a camel-colored coat, surrounded by 40 bare rolling racks. 600 pressed ivory tablecloths are supposed to be hanging there. Through the service doors, banquet captains are covering ballroom tables with brown paper, while a medical conference begins checking in upstairs. My boss arrives with the operations team behind him. Graham Mercer walks to the dock whiteboard, takes the red marker from my hand, and boxes my initials. "She missed the delivery," he announces. I'm still deciding which part of that sentence to answer when Leon Voss, our gate supervisor, steps through the crowd. He carries a curled pink ticket between two fingers. "This left at 4:12, he says. The timestamp is clear. So is the route field. Office Reroute Level 2/GM. The route points upstairs to Graham's office. The ticket shows his initials, his truck change, and the seal number from the load I released. Beside him, my husband reads it and looks away. That is the part I can't explain. Graham takes the ticket from Leon. For 1 second, his thumb covers the initials as neatly as if he'd practiced it. This isn't the place to conduct an internal review. Celia folds her arms. She has silver blonde hair cut close at the jaw and a way of becoming quieter as other people lose control. You conducted one when you named your dispatcher in front of my dock staff. I stated what our system showed. Your system seems to have handwriting. Someone behind me coughs into a fist. Graham turns and the sound stops. The dock smells like wet concrete, coffee, and the faint scorched cotton scent that follows our trucks everywhere. At the edge of the light, one of Bellwether's breakfast cooks is staring at us while holding a sleeve of white napkins against his chest. I reach for the ticket. Graham doesn't release it. "Where's truck 12? I ask. I'm confirming that. "Leon?" "Southgate camera shows it taking Mercer Avenue," Leon says. "That's the Ashcombe route." Celia's face changes by half an inch. Ashcombe Convention Resort opened 3 weeks ago, 12 miles west with a ballroom twice the size of hers, and a purchasing director Graham has been taking to lunch since February. Graham folds the ticket once. "Mara, contact the driver." Luis doesn't answer while moving. "You wrote that policy. Then use dispatch override. Truck 12's console stopped accepting overrides on Friday. Replacement unit is on your desk waiting for approval. Our maintenance manager, Pete, studies a fascinating crack in the floor. Graham hands me the ticket. Solve it." He means the missing linen. He also means the audience. I call Ashcombe's receiving office, get transferred twice, and reach a dock clerk named Denise who tells me truck 12 arrived 9 minutes ago. "Seal intact?" I ask. "Looks intact. Don't break it." A pause. "Your driver says Mr. Mercer authorized delivery. He authorized the route. Bellwether owns the load. Read me the seal." Denise does. It matches the pink ticket in my hand and the advance shipping notice I sent Celia at 3:48. "Keep the truck at your dock," I say. "I'm sending a replacement order from the plant. You'll still receive a trial delivery, but it'll be the correct stock." Graham steps closer. "We don't have replacement ivory in that quantity. We have 400 Ashcombe ivories in finishing. The other 200 can come from the unmonogrammed reserve if Patrice hasn't cut the hems. That reserve is for damage rotation. It's our only clean match." He lowers his voice. "You don't allocate reserve without my approval." Celia watches him over my shoulder. "Then approve it," I say. His jaw shifts. Graham has a small pale scar near his chin from walking into a wire rack during the plant expansion. June once told that story at Thanksgiving because Graham had finished the investor tour with blood soaking through a folded napkin. In her version, it proved commitment. In his, the rack had been installed wrong. "Approved," he says. I call Patrice on the finishing floor. She answers over the clatter of the ironers. "If you're calling about those 200 reserve cloths," she says, "I already told Graham they're not Ashcombe white." I know. I need Bellwether white. They are Bellwether white. Exactly. 3 seconds of silence. Patrice understands inventory faster than most people understand sentences. "Oh," she says. Well, look at that. Can you build 6 carts with the 400 Ashcombe pieces and 200 reserve? Green ties on Bellwether, blue ties on Ashcombe. You want the good wheels? I want every wheel that doesn't scream. That leaves us 5. Steal 1 from uniforms. Now you're talking like management. I hear her shout for Thomas before the call ends. Celia asks, how long? 40 minutes to finish loading, 22 here if traffic stays light. Your first ballroom can be set by 6:40. Doors open at 7. I'll send 8 people to help dress tables. Your people know my folds? I trained 3 of them on your fan fold. The other 5 know how to listen. Her mouth almost smiles. Service credit will be calculated from 5:30. I understand, Graham cuts in. We can discuss the credit after we establish responsibility. The cloths will get here before your responsibility does, Celia says. I'll start with the cloths. She turns to me. Walk inside. I want to show you what your missing load is holding up. It is not a friendly invitation. The Bellwether Ballroom has 28-foot ceilings, walnut panels, and chandeliers shaped like falling rain. Right now, it looks like a warehouse with better lighting. Rolled carpets sit along one wall. Coffee stations wait under clear plastic. At the center, a banquet captain named Reggie is measuring the drop on a paper-covered table with a ruler. Paper's half an inch short, he tells Celia. It's paper, Reggie. It still has standards. Celia introduces me as the person fixing the linen. Reggie looks at my Mercer textile jacket, then at the empty tables. I hope you brought long arms. We're sending 8. I asked for arms, not employees. Patrice is choosing them. They'll have both. That earns me the quickest grin. Gone before Graham enters the room. He has left Leon and the team outside. Nate comes in behind him with his phone in one hand. He is wearing the navy sweater I gave him last Christmas, the one that makes his eyes look more gray than brown. We drove separately because month-end closes kept him at the plant until midnight. He kissed the side of my head in the kitchen at 3:15 and told me not to wait for him after work. Now he studies a notification on his screen. Do you know why Graham changed the route? I ask. Nate glances toward Celia. It's a fair question, she says. I know Ashcombe requested an accelerated trial, he says carefully. I didn't know it involved this load. That isn't what I asked. His thumb rubs the edge of his phone case. I knew the trial had been moved to today. Since when? Last night. Graham exhales through his nose. Nate handles finance. He doesn't assign trucks. I'm asking my husband. And your husband is standing in a client's ballroom as the company controller. There it is, the family trick of changing the room until the answer no longer fits. Celia's radio crackles. She steps away to speak with her executive chef. Graham immediately motions us toward a service corridor lined with brass carts. The trial became time-sensitive at 10 last night, he says. Ashcombe has 3 vendors competing. Their procurement director offered us a live test before contract selection. With Bellwether's cloths? With clean, appropriate inventory. Monogrammed Bellwether carts were staged at Dock 3. The cloths aren't monogrammed. The cart cards are. The reserve is sized to Bellwether's tables. The advance notice was transmitted. I made an executive allocation and boxed my initials on the board. His eyes sharpen. The dashboard showed your route unreconciled. You changed it after I reconciled. Then the system should have notified you. I was at Bellwether verifying a delivery you sent somewhere else. Nate says my name softly, a warning disguised as comfort. Graham squares his cuffs. Even at 5 in the morning, he looks prepared for a lender's lunch. He is 47 and handsome in the sturdy Mercer way. Broad forehead, straight nose, shoulders shaped by 20 years of moving things himself when people disappointed him. We have $800,000 committed to a tunnel washer that is running at 63% capacity, he says. Ashcombe gets us above 70. At 70, our utility savings finally beat the financing cost. That account protects 114 jobs. Then why hide the reroute? I didn't hide it. I entered it at the gate. You entered it on paper after the system couldn't flag me. He looks at Nate, not for help, for correction. Nate slides his phone into his pocket. We need to get through service first. The delivery arrives at 6:27. I hear it before I see it. Air brakes sighing beyond the ballroom wall. Patrice rides in the passenger seat, wearing a purple hair wrap and a sweatshirt that says Pressing Matters in cracked gold letters. 7 plan employees climb out behind her. Thomas brings the 6th cart from uniforms. Its left front wheel lets out a shriek every 4 feet. I thought you were stealing a good one, I tell Patrice. I stole the best one they had. Reggie meets us at the service doors. That wheel will wake the dead. Put it in the cardiologist's ballroom, Patrice says. They'll know what to do. Even Celia laughs at that. One short burst she seems annoyed to have released. We dress tables in teams. Bellwether's fanfold requires 2 people to snap each cloth above the tabletop, float it down, align the crease with the centerpiece mark, and draw the corners to equal height. Graham takes off his jacket and helps. He is good at it. Better than 3 of the people I brought. He notices twisted hems before I do and shows Thomas how to use 2 fingers beneath the edge to make the drop even. That is one of the most exhausting things about Graham. He is rarely useless. At 6:58, the final paper cover goes into a trash cart. Guests begin entering through the far doors while Reggie straightens water glasses. The room looks effortless, which is the expensive illusion our work exists to create. Celia signs the delivery receipt but writes, "Received late original load," rerouted above her name. She tears off her copy and hands the board back to me. "I want the incident report by tomorrow at noon," she says. "Include the original gate ticket." Graham is beside me, so I feel rather than see him go still. "Our reports are confidential internal documents," he says. "Then provide the facts in a letter. I'll personally send you a summary." Celia looks at me. "Who normally prepares delivery failures?" "I do." Then Mara sends it. On the drive back to the plant, the pink gate ticket lies on my passenger seat. Graham's fold runs directly through the root field. At every turn, the paper slides toward the floor, and I catch it with my fingertips. Mercer Textile occupies an old beverage bottling plant beside the river. The washing floor is always warm enough to fog my glasses in winter. Clean linen travels overhead in blue slings, swaying from ceiling rails like giant pieces of wrapped candy. The office level was added above shipping during Graham's expansion, a row of glass rooms looking down on the docks. Upstairs, Graham is waiting in my office chair. Nate stands by the file cabinet. Between them, on my desk, is a printed incident form. Graham taps the empty box labeled Root Cause. "Unreconciled route change," he says. That's accurate and keeps the conversation operational. Who changed the route? That goes under contributing factors. It goes under root cause. Mara. I place the pink ticket beside the form and smooth its curled corner with my thumbnail. Nate watches my hand. The bank review is Thursday. I know what day it is. A major service failure affects the covenant presentation, he says. If we frame it as a process gap, we can correct the process. Graham leans back in my chair. Exactly. And if we frame it as my failure? Neither of them answers quickly enough. Through the glass wall, Leon crosses the yard toward the gatehouse. Even from upstairs, I can see the brass ticket spike beside his heater, catching a narrow strip of morning sun. I pick up the incident form. Under root cause, I write, Executive reroute of released client inventory after dispatch reconciliation. Under authorized by, I write, Graham Mercer. I sign my name and slide the form across the desk. Graham reads it once. His expression settles into something almost peaceful. Effective immediately, he says. Ticket reconciliation is no longer part of your duties. He reaches for the pink gate ticket. I put my palm over it first. Take your hand off the ticket, Graham says. Celia requested the original. She requested facts in a letter. She requested the original first. And I told her our records are confidential. It's Leon's gate copy. We retain it for 90 days. Graham looks through the glass wall toward the gatehouse. Then it should be in the gatehouse. For once, we agree. I lift my palm, pick up the ticket, and walk out before he can decide agreement feels too much like defeat. Nate follows me to the stairs. Mara. I keep going. The shipping floor is in full morning churn. Clean room coats move toward pharmaceutical packing in white nylon bags. Restaurant aprons roll past in red cages. Above us, a sling opens and drops warm sheets onto a conveyor with a soft, heavy breath. Nate catches up beside Doc 2. Can we have a conversation without you walking away? I'm walking toward the place Graham just said the ticket belongs. You know what I mean? I stop. A route driver steers an empty rack around us, pretending the squealing caster requires all his concentration. At Bellwether, I say, you knew the Ashcombe trial had moved. I knew about the trial. I didn't know Graham was using Bellwether's load. You looked away before he explained anything, because I knew what it would look like. It looked like his initials. It looked like the company was poaching inventory from one client to impress another. That's what happened. Nate lowers his voice. And I knew you'd say exactly that in front of Celia. The driver has reached the other end of the dock, but the caster keeps squealing. Nate watches him go. I am trying to keep one bad decision from becoming the only fact anyone can see, he says. Then start by seeing it yourself. Leon is inside the gatehouse eating oatmeal from a paper cup. His heater clicks beneath the counter. The brass spike stands beside it, holding a month's worth of white office copies. The pink ticket in my hand is the dispatch copy, which Leon pulled because he knew the white one had to remain in sequence. You got company, he says. Nate stays outside. I feed the pink copy through Leon's scanner and save it to the delivery failure folder. Then I email the scan to myself through the company system, attach it to the incident record, and hand the paper back. Leon studies Graham's fold through the root field. He folds cash like this, he says. You've seen Graham fold cash? Company barbecue. He gave me 2 20s to buy ice after the freezer truck tripped a breaker. Folded both bills right down Andrew Jackson's nose. Did the ice get an executive allocation code? I wrote one on the receipt. That is Leon, 29 years at Gates. First for the bottling plant and then for Mercer Textile. And he has never met an undocumented bag of ice. He pushes the pink copy onto the brass spike beneath the white original. He'll come for these. He already changed my duties. Leon glances toward Nate through the window. That fast? He was prepared. Then he didn't decide this morning. I look at the stacked tickets. Their corners flutter every time the heater turns on. Keep them in sequence, I say. Wasn't planning to organize them by horoscope. Back at my desk, the incident form is gone. My chair is empty. Graham and Nate are upstairs in Graham's office with the blinds angled halfway down. On my keyboard sits a yellow sticky note in Graham's block printing. All client communication Bellwether through executive office. At 9:14, Celia emails me asking for the recovery timeline and the name of the driver whose load was diverted. At 9:20, Graham responds to her without copying me. I know because Celia forwards it. His letter calls the failure a synchronization issue during simultaneous, high-volume launches. It says the route was dynamically reassigned through an executive-level exception and that my team had not completed secondary confirmation. He offers a 3% credit against the morning's linen charge. Celia adds one sentence above the forward. This does not answer my question. I type a response, delete it, and call her office. You've been instructed not to speak with me? She asks. I've been instructed to route communication through executive management. Is that yes dressed for work? It means Graham is the approved contact. And are you still responsible for my deliveries? Yes. Interesting arrangement. I can hear dishes being stacked in the background. Celia works from a small office behind Bellwether's banquet kitchen, where someone is always pushing a cart past her door. Your service agreement requires a written event timeline after a priority failure, I say. I prepared the internal report this morning. Will I receive it? The executive office controls the external version. Then I'll ask the executive office. Again, she hangs up without making me promise anything. That is one of the reasons I respect her. At 10, Graham moves ticket reconciliation to Denny Shaw, a recently promoted route coordinator who says, circle back whenever he wants permission to leave a room. Denny brings a cardboard box for the binders beside my desk. I'm just doing what I was told, he says. I know. I don't think this is about your performance. Then you're ahead of the official explanation. He gives a pained little laugh. Should I take the blue tin too? The blue recipe tin sits on the shelf above the root binders. It has strawberries painted on the lid and a dent where Luis backed a rack into it 5 years ago. Drivers drop handwritten substitution notes inside when clients reject or exchange items after the tablets have closed a stop. The tin belongs to no formal process, which means it contains the truth about half our formal processes. No, I say. That's driver correspondence. Graham said all reconciliation materials. Then ask whether he wants the mints in my bottom drawer. Denny leaves the tin. For 3 days, Graham behaves like a man demonstrating calm for a camera. He walks the floor twice per shift. He approves the replacement console for truck 12. He orders a second count on every bellwether load and joins the drivers at 6 in the morning with coffee from the good place instead of the machine by payroll. The coffee makes people nervous. He also begins changing routes verbally. The first change sends a restaurant uniform truck to collect spa towels from Ashcombe. The second pulls a driver off Bellwether's evening soil pickup and sends him to demonstrate our scanning app for Ashcombe's housekeeping director. Each time, Denny updates the dashboard after the vehicle is left. Executive exception, he tells me. Where's the authorization? He told me. Where's the record? Denny looks toward the ceiling. Graham's office is directly above us. I enter it when I get time. Enter it when he tells you, before the truck moves. He said the dashboard slows him down. The dashboard's job is to slow down people moving $40,000 of linen on public roads. Denny rubs the back of his neck. Can you take it up with him? I did. You have my binders. That afternoon, a hospitality invoice arrives for 400 ivory tablecloths, delivered to Ashcombe on the morning of the bellwether failure. The item number is correct, but the wash lot field has been overwritten with the code for new inventory. We have not purchased new ivory inventory in 6 months. I take the invoice downstairs to finishing. Patrice is crouched beside ironer 2 with a screwdriver between her teeth. She removes it when she sees my shoes. If that's about the temperature drift, I already called Pete. It's about ivory cloths. Then I wish it was temperature drift. She closes the ironer panel and stands. Patrice is 52, compact and quick, with forearms hardened by linen carts and an expression that makes weak excuses turn around before reaching her. I show her the wash lot code. Those weren't new, she says. What were they? Her eyes move past me to the overhead slings. 200 came off Bellwether Reserve. 200 came from their spring rotation. Spring rotation was tagged for hem repair. Graham told me the repair was cosmetic and Ashcombe needed presentation stock. He had us pull the Bellwether cart cards. When? Tuesday night, the day before the delivery. Who relabeled them? Thomas printed the tags. I signed the transfer sheet. Where is it? Graham took it upstairs. Patrice sees something in my face and wipes her hands on her sweatshirt. He said you approved it. I didn't. He used your standing substitution authority. That applies inside the same client account. I told him that. What did he say? That he signs my checks. Patrice's mouth tightens, which is funny because payroll signs my checks, and lately they do it a day late. The tunnel washer thumps behind us, a deep, rhythmic sound felt through the soles of my shoes. Above the finishing line, bundles of clean linen move toward sorting beneath small green lights. Why didn't you call me? I ask. I did. Your voicemail answered. My company phone never showed the call. What time? 9:38. At 9:38 Tuesday night, I was in our kitchen, checking the bellwether advance notice while Nate reheated soup. My phone sat on the counter between us. Patrice takes her own phone from her pocket and shows me the outgoing call. 34 seconds. The number displayed is mine, but the call was forwarded to the executive office mailbox. Graham had not only changed the load, he had changed where resistance went. I photograph Patrice's call log with my phone, then ask her to email herself a copy of the transfer sheet if she still has the print queue record. She arches an eyebrow. Email myself? You're entitled to retain work you signed. Now you're talking like a deposition. I'm talking like someone whose initials got boxed in red. Before she can answer, Tomas approaches with a bundle of green cart ties. Luis says he needs Mara, he tells us. He's by uniforms. Luis is sitting on an overturned bucket behind the uniform cages, eating almonds one at a time. He is 43, built like a refrigerator, and speaks so softly that people lean toward him, even when he is telling them something unpleasant. Truck 12 had a bad cart, he says. I know, Patrice replaced it. No, before Ashcombe. At loading. Wheel split. He holds up his phone. I took pictures for the damage claim. The first photo shows the broken caster. The second catches the full cart behind it, loaded with folded ivory cloths. A bellwether card is clipped to the front. The green plastic seal tag is visible on the truck door. Luis enlarges it with 2 fingers. Seal 44719. The same number on Leon's ticket and Bellwether's advance notice. Send those to the maintenance claim folder, I say. Already did Tuesday. Tuesday. When I loaded, Graham asked me to stage 12 overnight. That explains how truck 12 was sealed before I arrived. At 4:12, I confirmed the seal against the advance notice and released what I believed was Bellwether's stage load. Graham had changed only the route at the gate. The physical switch had happened hours earlier. Did he tell you where you were going? He put Ashcombe in the console. Said you knew. Did I act like I knew? You act the same when you know and when you're deciding whether to throw someone into the river. Patrice snorts. Luis puts another almond in his mouth. I figured you were deciding. At home that evening, Nate is making grilled cheese in the cast iron skillet. He presses each sandwich with a smaller pan because his father used to do it that way. The kitchen smells like butter and tomato soup. Graham forwarded my calls Tuesday night, I say. Nate keeps his hand on the smaller pan. What? Patrice called me about the inventory transfer. The system sent her to his voicemail. Maybe the after-hours tree was changed. It was changed for my extension. He lifts the pan. One sandwich has gone nearly black at the edges. You need to document that with IT. I did. And? Graham told IT it was part of the Ashcombe launch protocol. Nate turns off the burner. I didn't know. You keep saying that. Because you keep bringing me things I didn't know. I'd like to bring you one you did. He sets the spatula down too hard. Fine. I knew Ashcombe matters. I knew the bank review assumes increased utilization. I knew Graham was afraid June would sell the industrial parcel if the new washer missed projections. I knew he was pushing the trial. I did not know he would divert Bellwether's load and blame you. Did he ask you to classify the credit? Nate looks at the burned sandwich. As a dispatch variance, I say. He asked what category would isolate it from launch costs. And what did you tell him? That dispatch variance was the existing category. So when he boxed my initials, you knew exactly where the cost would land. It's an accounting code, Mara. It's the code the bank will see. He plates the sandwiches, though neither of us sits. Change it, I say. Before the review? Yes. It will raise questions. It should. His face closes in the familiar Mercer way, as if a steel shutter has come down behind his eyes. On Friday morning, my badge does not open the executive stairwell. I use the shipping stairs and find a letter on my desk. Graham stands at the glass wall while Denny removes the remaining binders. The letter cites failure to follow communication protocols, interference with reassigned duties, unauthorized retention of operational records, and conduct undermining executive management. Suspension pending review, Graham says. Effective now. Nate is upstairs in his office. Through two glass walls, I can see him standing perfectly still. Graham holds out his hand for my badge. I unclip it from my jacket and place it on the desk between us. Then I reach for the blue recipe tin. "That stays," he says. "It contains driver notes addressed to dispatch." "You're no longer dispatch." I leave the tin where it is. As I walk toward the exit, the lid catches the vibration of the washing floor and gives one small metallic rattle behind me. The rain has turned the employee lot the color of pencil lead. My car is parked at the far fence because I arrived after the route vans, and by the time I reach it, water has worked through the shoulders of my jacket. I sit behind the wheel and wait for my hands to stop shaking. My company email disappears first, then the dispatch app. My phone lights up with 3 separate notices as Graham's administrator closes each account. The speed of it means he had the suspension ready before I arrived. At 8:16, my health insurance app sends an automated reminder for a prescription refill. I laugh hard enough to hurt my throat. Nate knocks on my passenger window. I unlock the door. He climbs in, wet hair flattened on one side, and closes us inside the smell of rain and clean linen. "You knew," I say. "I knew he was considering suspension." "When?" "Last night." "While you burned dinner?" He asked me for the financial impact of losing your wife's salary, of an operations suspension. I turn the key so the defroster starts. Air rattles through the vents. "And what did you tell him?" "That replacing you with an interim manager would cost more than keeping you." "How romantic." "Mara, I argued against it." "As controller? As your husband?" He listened to neither. Nate wipes rain from his eyebrow. "Come home. We'll go through the letter and write a response." "Are you changing the bellwether credit code?" His mouth opens, then closes. "Get out of my car." "You're soaked and angry. Those are observations. The door is on your right." He stays another second, looking at me with the expression he uses when a spreadsheet refuses to reconcile, as if there must be one cell he can correct to make me reasonable again. Then he gets out. I drive to a diner near the river and order coffee I don't drink. On the back of the suspension letter, I write down everything I can remember while the times are still clean. Tuesday's staged load, Patrice's call, the forwarding change, Truck 12's seal, the red box around my initials, the incident form that vanished from my desk. The waitress refills my untouched cup twice. On the third pass, she says, "You want food or privacy?" "Which is cheaper?" "Food." I order eggs. By noon, an overnight envelope is waiting on my porch. Graham has sent a formal copy of the suspension letter, a property return list, and a proposed separation agreement. 6 weeks' salary, continued insurance through the end of the quarter, and a clause requiring me to acknowledge shared responsibility for the bellwether service event. The letter says the offer reflects Mercer Textiles' appreciation for my years of service and its desire to protect family relationships. I put it beneath the fruit bowl and wash my hands. June calls it too. "I'd like you and Nate for supper Sunday," she says. Her voice is warm, low, and trained by decades of talking angry motel managers out of switching laundries. "Is this supper or a separation meeting?" "I'm making pot roast." That doesn't answer the question. It answers what I'm prepared to answer on the phone. June's house sits on a wooded acre behind the plant's original warehouse. She bought it after her husband died and furnished it with pieces too large for any room. A walnut dining table for 12, a leather couch that could seat a choir, an iron chandelier Graham installed without measuring the ceiling. Sunday, the table is set for 4. Graham is not there. June kisses my cheek and takes my wet coat. She wears a green silk blouse with flower on one cuff. Nate stands at the sideboard opening wine. He has been sleeping in the guest room since Friday, though sleeping is too generous a word for the noises the floorboards make above me after midnight. We sit. June serves pot roast, carrots, and potatoes from a blue Dutch oven. For 5 minutes, she talks about a pair of foxes living near her tool shed. Then she places the separation agreement beside my plate. The corner touches the gravy. "Nate says you haven't signed," she says. "Nate could have saved you a stamp." I told Graham 6 weeks was insulting. He agreed to 12. I'm suspended pending review. Why are we negotiating separation? June cuts a carrot with the side of her fork. Because review is a word companies use while everyone gathers the courage to say what has already happened. Then say what happened. You and Graham can't work together. I worked with Graham for 9 years. You worked around each other for 9 years. This week you stopped. Nate pours wine into my glass. I cover it with my hand. June watches the gesture. When I put you in dispatch, half the drivers thought you were there because you married my son. I remember. And the other half thought you'd quit once you learned route management begins at 3 in the morning. I remember that too. You proved them wrong. You are very good at your job. The compliment lands with the careful weight of an anesthetic. But Graham carries the company, she says. The loans, the client growth, the expansion. He made a choice under pressure. He diverted reserved inventory and arranged for the failure to land under my name. He believed the trial justified the risk. Then he could have put his own initials in the red box. June's eyes dropped to her plate. Nate says, the agreement doesn't require you to accept sole responsibility. Shared responsibility is a lie with better table manners. The bank review went badly, June says. They're requesting additional reporting on utilization. If Bellwether treats this as an intentional service breach, they can reopen pricing and demand credits across the quarter. If Ashcombe walks, we have an idle washer and no growth account. I have people asking whether their shifts are safe. So this is about them. It is about all of us. It was about all of you when Graham rerouted the load. It became about me when he picked up the marker. June reaches across the table but stops before touching my wrist. What would make this survivable, she asks. For whom? Her hand returns to her lap. Nate unfolds the agreement. We can change the wording. Process failure. Executive and dispatch controls were insufficiently aligned. Did you change the accounting code? He looks at June. That answer is worse than the others because he doesn't even pretend it belongs to us. I need time, he says. You've had 5 days. The review raised issues beyond 1 service credit. Then take another 5. Take 50. Just stop asking me to hold the lie while you think. June's chair scrapes as she stands. Mara, please. I walk to the hall and put on my coat. She follows, carrying the separation agreement. You came into this family when we were still raw from losing Howard, she says. You made Nate laugh again. You got Graham to take Christmas Day off for the first time in 12 years. I don't want this business to cost me my family. I look at the paper in her hand. It already decided what I cost. Her face folds for a moment, then firms again. June can feel pain and negotiate through it. That is how she built the company. 12 weeks, she says. No admission of sole fault. Insurance through December. I open the door. Keep the pot roast, I say. Take my name out of the failure. On Monday, I rent a furnished apartment above a veterinary supply store. The carpet is beige, the couch is green, and every morning at 8, the freight elevator downstairs bangs twice before crates of feed roll across the stockroom. The place smells faintly of alfalfa and disinfectant. Nate helps carry in 1 suitcase and a box of kitchen things. He sets my cast iron skillet on the counter. That's yours, I say. You use it more. You taught me to press sandwiches with it. My dad taught me. Exactly. He leaves the skillet. For the first week, my life becomes small enough to fit on the apartment's narrow table. Suspension response, grocery receipt, prescription bottle, a legal pad with dates. I apply for 3 operations jobs and withdraw from one when the recruiter describes dispatch as basically answering phones. Patrice calls from her car during lunch. Denny moved the blue tin, she says. Where? Graham told him to clear informal records from dispatch. Denny put it in the route archive instead. That's almost brave. For Denny, it's horseback combat. Is Graham still changing routes verbally? Now he calls them live allocation decisions. How's Ashcombe? Happy. They added spa linen and kitchen uniforms. The trial worked. I sit with that after we hang up. Graham's choice was not foolish. It was profitable. Ashcom's purchasing director praised the service, and the tunnel washer climbs to 68% utilization. June sends Nate a photo of the production dashboard. Nate doesn't forward it to me, but the image appears in the family message thread before June remembers I'm still in it. The next morning, I remove myself from the thread. 3 days later, Celia calls. "I received another interesting letter from Graham," she says. "I'm no longer authorized to discuss Mercer operations. I'm calling about my operations. Yesterday's napkin load arrived with a seal that did not match the advance notice." My hand tightens around the phone. "Was the load complete?" "4 carts short. Your coordinator says they were delayed in finishing." "Was the truck late?" "On time. Wrong seal, short load, corrected paperwork sent 40 minutes after delivery." "And the original seal? Listed on my advance notice. Leon's gate copy shows that seal leaving on a different truck." "Where did it go?" "Ashcombe." I close my eyes. Graham had used a second committed load after knowing the first ticket existed. The new load was smaller, easier to explain as finishing delay. He had also learned to keep his initials out of the route field. "Who authorized it?" I ask. "The gate ticket says executive exception. That's not a person. I made the same observation. Celia's service agreement allows a cure audit after repeated priority failures or seal discrepancies. I wrote that clause 6 years ago after a restaurant account accused one of our drivers of losing chef coats that were later found locked in the restaurant's basement. I'm invoking the audit," she says. "Graham will offer a larger credit." "He already did." "And I prefer vendors who understand the difference between compensation and correction." She asks me to attend as the suspended dispatcher named in Graham's incident summary. I tell her I will answer factual questions, but I will not negotiate my job through Bellwether. "I'm not offering your job," she says. "I'm asking what happened to my linen. That's my condition." Then we understand each other. The audit request changes the air around Mercer Textile. People who have been checking on me through jokes become precise. Luis sends me the date and folder path of his damage photographs. Patrice confirms she still has the transfer sheet because payroll requires signed movement records for production incentives. Leon leaves a voicemail consisting of 1 sentence. "Spike's full and still sharp. I return none of their calls from my company phone because I no longer have one. I write their information on my legal pad and tell each of them to preserve records through normal retention, nothing more." Nate comes to the apartment the night before the audit. He carries a paper bag from the diner by the river. "You didn't eat your eggs that morning," he says. "How do you know where I was?" The charge hit our card. They tasted like wet insulation. I brought pie. He sets 2 slices on the counter. Cherry for me, apple for him. He remembers, which makes me angrier than forgetting would. "The second diversion is coded as finishing variance," he says. "Did you code it?" Graham approved the entry. That wasn't my question. I told Denny which code the system would accept after close. I push the cherry pie away. Nate grips the counter. The accounting export still shows who entered it, when it was changed, and which executive cost center received the revenue. Will Bellwether see that? If they ask the right question, "You're the controller. Help them ask it." His face looks tired in a way Graham's never does. "If I bring the unaltered export, I'm choosing against my brother and my mother." "You chose on the first morning." I froze. "You kept freezing in the same direction." He looks toward the cast iron skillet on my stove. "I'll be there tomorrow," he says. "At the audit?" "Yes." "With what?" He picks up his pie and leaves mine behind. The next morning, I enter Mercer Textile through the visitor door. My badge is still in Graham's desk. The receptionist prints a sticker with my name and places a red V beneath it. Graham meets me at the foot of the executive stairs. For the first time since I have known him, his tie is crooked. "You are here solely at Bellwether's request," he says. "I know why I'm here." He looks at my visitor sticker, then at the legal pad under my arm. Above us, the blue slings move along the ceiling rails. Across the yard, Leon leaves the gatehouse carrying the brass spike in both hands. Pink and white tickets rise from it in a tight, fluttering stack. Graham follows my eyes. His face changes before he can stop it. "What is he doing with that?" Graham asks. "Walking," I say. Leon crosses the shipping floor at his usual pace, slow enough to notice everything and fast enough to make drivers move when he appears behind them. The brass spike is mounted on a square block of dark wood. He carries it level, like a waiter delivering a dangerous centerpiece. "He can't remove gate records," Graham says. "He is the gate supervisor." That doesn't answer the question. Leon reaches us. "Celia asked for original route documentation. She asked for an audit packet. This is the packet." He keeps walking toward the training room. Graham falls into step beside him. "Those tickets contain information for other clients. Then we'll turn them one at a time. You should have made copies. You told us the paper was obsolete." Leon opens the training room door with his elbow. Seemed wasteful. Celia is seated at one of the folding tables with 2 bellwether delivery receipts, 2 advance shipping notices, and Graham's incident summary arranged in front of her. Reggie stands at a side counter pouring coffee into a foam cup. He has brought his ruler. It lies beside the powdered creamer. June sits near the window. I didn't know she would be here. She looks smaller inside the plant than she did at her dining table, though she found everything visible through the glass. The first route, the first contracts, the first washer that shook hard enough to crack the original floor. Denny occupies the chair nearest the door. Patrice and Luis wait in the hall. Graham sees them and turns to Celia. "This is a vendor cure audit, not an employee hearing." "It's an examination of repeated service failures," Celia says. "You identified dispatch as the cause. I invited the people who handled dispatch, inventory, transport, and gate control. You invited a suspended employee. I invited the dispatcher named 7 times in your report." Celia points me toward the chair across from her. Graham sits at the head of the table. June remains by the window. Leon sets the spike between the advance notices. The top tickets flutter beneath the ventilation duct. Celia begins with the first delivery. She asks me when I approved Bellwether's advance notice, when the load was sealed, and what I saw at the gate. I answer, only what I know. "Did you authorize an Ashcombe reroute?" she asks. "No." "Did you receive an electronic notification?" "No." "A telephone call?" "No." "Did anyone attempt to call you?" Patrice did. Her call was forwarded to the executive office mailbox. Graham leans forward. The after-hours tree was temporarily consolidated during the launch. "For all managers?" Celia asks. "For relevant operational contacts." Was Mara informed? It was an administrative setting, not a disciplinary action. That sounds like no. Graham spreads his hands. "We can spend hours litigating a phone tree, or we can discuss the actual service recovery, which was completed before the event opened." Reggie sips his coffee. 7 minutes before. "Before," Graham repeats. Celia picks up the pink ticket. "You called this document an obsolete scrap in your second letter." I said it was a legacy record superseded by our dispatch platform. "Then why does it contain information the platform did not?" "Because Leon wrote an exception after I verbally authorized it. Why did you authorize it?" Ashcombe presented an opportunity with a narrow evaluation window. I made an allocation decision based on the total clean inventory available. Bellwether's inventory, unbranded textile in Mercer's possession, reserved to Bellwether under our service agreement. Reserved inventory is adjusted every day. By the dispatcher? Typically. And on this day? By me. Celia lays the ticket flat. "That's the first clear sentence you've given me." Graham looks toward June. She studies the production floor through the glass. Leon turns tickets until he reaches the white gate original from that morning. The writing pressed through more sharply than on the pink copy. Office Reroute Level 2 /GM Departure at 412, Seal 44719. Luis steps inside when Celia calls him. He places his phone on the table and opens the maintenance photographs. The broken caster fills the first image. In the second, the same cart sits inside truck 12, beneath a bellwether card. The green seal tag hangs in view. 44719. When did you take this? Celia asks. Tuesday evening, 9:21. Who told you to stage the truck overnight? Graham. Where were you told to take it? Ashcombe. Destination came through the console. Did you know the inventory was reserved to Bellwether? The cart card said Bellwether. Graham's voice stays even. Drivers routinely transport mixed client stock before final destination coding. Luis looks at him. Not sealed, we don't. The room becomes very quiet except for Reggie stirring powdered creamer into his coffee. Patrice brings in the transfer sheet. It has her signature at the bottom, Tomas's tag print code, and Graham's handwritten instruction across the top, Release Bellwether Reserve under Mara's standing substitution authority. Celia slides it toward me. Did he have that authority? To substitute damaged or unavailable pieces inside the same client account. Could it be used to transfer Bellwether Reserve to Ashcombe? No. Graham taps the form. That limitation was customary, not written on the authorization. It's written in the dispatch procedure, I say. Section 6, which you wrote, which you approved. Denny clears his throat. Every face turns toward him, and he looks briefly betrayed by his own body. I have the procedure, he says. From beneath his chair, he lifts the blue recipe tin. Graham stares at it. Why did you bring that? Celia requested substitution records. Those are informal driver notes. Denny puts the tin on the table. Some of them are. Some correspond to route exceptions entered after close. He opens the dented lid. Inside are fuel receipts, rejected item notes, torn cart labels, and 3 slips in different drivers' handwriting. Each records an Ashcombe drop added after departure. 2 include the phrase Graham approved. 1 is dated 3 weeks before the Bellwether failure. The system has those changes, Graham says. The final system has them, Denny says. The initial route history does not. You were assigned reconciliation. Are you saying you failed to enter them? I entered what you gave me when you gave it to me. That is not an answer. Denny's neck turns red, but this time he doesn't look at the ceiling. It's the answer I have. Graham sits back. For the first time, I can see the shape of his strategy from his side. Ashcombe needed a trial. The tunnel washer needed volume. Bellwether had reserve. I had a substitution authority broad enough to borrow and narrow enough to blame. If the trial failed, he would have called it an operational experiment. When it succeeded, each exception made the next one easier. He was building a bridge out of pieces he believed he could replace before anyone looked down. The door opens. Nate enters carrying his laptop in a gray folder. He doesn't look at me. He sits beside June, plugs the laptop into the wall display, and opens an accounting export. Graham says, "Finance is outside the scope of a service audit." Celia points to his report. You included financial remediation as evidence that the incident was corrected. Nate's first screen shows the Bellwether credit coded to dispatch variance. The second shows the short napkin load under finishing variance. Then he opens the transaction detail behind both. Revenue from the diverted pieces was credited to the Ashcombe Launch Cost Center. Bellwether's credits and overtime landed in operational failure categories beneath my department and Patrice's. Who selected those codes? Celia asks. Nate swallows. I selected the first based on our existing chart. I advised Denny which code would close the second entry. Who approved them? Graham. Did the codes accurately describe the cause? No. Graham's chair creaks. Nate, June says softly. He turns to her. They don't. On the screen, he opens an amended ledger. Both costs have been moved to executive launch expense. The change carries that morning's timestamp and Nate's controller credentials. Graham looks at his brother as if the room has tilted. You modified closed period entries before a lender reporting cycle. I corrected classifications before certification. You exposed the company to a covenant challenge. The entries already did that. The bank doesn't care which manager moved a tablecloth. The bank cares if management shifts launch losses into routine operations to improve a projection. June closes her eyes. Graham rises. His palms land on the folding table, one on either side of the brass spike. "I was trying to fill a machine we bought to keep this plant competitive," he says. "Ashcombe puts us at sustainable utilization. That protects jobs, routes, and the value of every contract we service. I made decisions in hours while everyone else had the luxury of documenting days." He looks at me. "Mara's procedures are excellent when business waits politely. It doesn't. Ashcombe gave us a window, and I took it. Bellwether received its linen. The conference opened. The second shortage was filled the same day. You want to punish the company because I refuse to manage it like a museum. It is the best argument he has, and parts of it are true." Celia lets the silence sit before answering. "You took the opportunity," she says. "Then you sent me a report saying someone else dropped it." Graham's hands lift from the table. "That is the service failure," she says. Bellwether's cure notice arrives that afternoon. Mercer Textile keeps the account under 18 months of probation, with full credits for both diversions, pre-departure approval on every executive route exception, monthly seal reconciliation, and Bellwether's right to terminate without penalty after another unexplained discrepancy. Ashcombe's purchasing director learns that its trial inventory came from another client's reserve during Mercer's required account review. Ashcombe keeps banquet linen but removes spa and uniform service from the proposed agreement. The tunnel washer's utilization projection falls back below Graham's promise. The bank grants Mercer a waiver with conditions. June must separate sales from operations, provide quarterly exception reports, and remove Graham's authority over routing, inventory allocation, and employee discipline. His equity distributions are held against the service credits and the cost of the monitoring plan. Graham keeps the title of Vice President of Sales. He is good enough to keep bringing in business. Now his contracts have to survive the route board after he signs them. Nate submits his resignation 2 days after the audit. He tells me at the apartment standing beside the narrow table while feed crates bang across the stockroom below. "June thinks I'm abandoning her," he says. "Are you?" I'm stopping myself from calling fear an accounting method. He has accepted temporary controller work for an equipment distributor. Less money. No family name on the building. "I corrected the other Ashcombe entries," he says. "All 3. "I heard. I should have done it when you asked. Yes. I kept thinking if I waited one more day, I could choose a version that didn't hurt anyone. You chose the version that hurt me quietly." He nods. His eyes fill, but he doesn't ask me to comfort him. "I'm sorry," he says. It is specific enough to stay in the room. We begin with coffee on Sundays. Separate addresses, separate accounts for a while. He returns the key to the apartment after realizing I never told him he could keep it. I give it back a month later, and he asks before using it. June offers me Graham's office. She makes the offer on the washing floor beside Ironer 2, where Patrice pretends to be absorbed in a temperature gauge. "Director of Operations," June says. "Written authority over routes and inventory. You report to me. Until reporting to you becomes uncomfortable?" She accepts the question without flinching. "I earned that. Yes, you could protect the procedures you built. I already protected them. It cost me my job, my home, and almost my marriage. I'm not coming back so the family can call that loyalty." June's mouth trembles. "The office is yours if you change your mind." It was never the office I needed. Celia asks me to interview for a regional vendor logistics position. Bellwether has been trying to fill for 4 months. 6 properties, 12 suppliers, and enough mismatched receiving systems to make her swear during business hours. I interview with 3 people who ask hard questions about the failure, including what I should have noticed sooner. I tell them I trusted an authority chain after its incentives had changed. They hire me. On my last visit to Mercer Textile, I collect a framed route map and the good rain boots I left beneath my desk. Leon meets me at the gatehouse. He pulls the pink ticket from the brass spike and offers it to me. The fold still cuts through Graham's initials. "You ought to keep it," Leon says. I smooth the curled corner with my thumbnail. For a moment, I think about framing it beside the map. Then I push it back down onto the spike, beneath the white original and above the tickets that came after. It belongs with the record. Outside, a truck rolls to the painted stop line. The driver lowers his window while Leon checks the seal, writes the time, and fills in the route before lifting the gate.